Some of the objectives here early on, we want to test this information, this best management practice information that we think. It's new stuff. We're going to test it. We have developed demonstration areas. And up in my end of the state, we have a demonstration area now both in Allegheny County and in Garrett County. If you're familiar with the Mount, anybody ever heard of here or have visited the Mount Nebo Wildlife Management Area near Oakland? Okay, it's historically always been a pretty decent woodcock and grouse cover. We've got some nice forest wetlands there. I'm going to show you some slides in a few minutes. That is our demonstration area. And the rationale here, or the thought process was to develop state-of-the-art work on a demonstration area so that we can bring folks like you to a place that's developed for habitat and say, this is what we're trying to create. It's hard for me to come to your property and talk about habitat improvement when you really don't have a sense for what I'm talking about sometimes. But if I can take you to a demonstration area and show you where we regenerated a stand of aspen or alder 5 years ago, and this is what it looks like, and then you delight of one, and you might get motivated to do that on your property. So we have one at Mount Nebo, we have another one in Greenridge State Forest. Along with these demonstration areas, we annually do woodcock singing ground surveys to monitor, hopefully, the results of our work. And at Kirk Orchard up here in Allegheny County, I've been pleasantly surprised because Allegheny County is a drier county. In Allegheny County, there's only about 600 acres of forest or wetlands. Up on the Appalachian Plateau in Garrett County is 6,000. But we've had great results, and we're starting to see more singing birds each spring with our habitat improvement work. Okay, we want to increase awareness of the need, programs like today, and hopefully we're going to be able to continue to work to provide ways to fund habitat work on private land. Mark mentioned if you have a commercial opportunity, that's great, but a lot of this stuff, particularly after he talked also about the need to continually keep succession in play. Well, once you don't have a non-commercial product there anymore, you have to have some other resource financial to do that. So there's some national things that are starting to be developed to try to find some funding mechanisms. Okay, let's talk a few minutes about what are some of the best management practices for managing for woodcock. Optimally, we like to have a 300 to 500 acre block of habitat. Again, with most private landowners, owning 10 acres on average or less, that's hard to do. It's nice if you can get your neighbors involved. Look at what you collectively as a neighborhood identify. Do I need diurnal habitat, young brushy stuff? Do I need singing grounds? What actually might be the limiting factor for woodcock in my neighborhood, and work together. Mark has covered some of this stuff. Feeding areas, we're looking at density of 10,000 stems per acre. Brooding areas, singing grounds, someone asked that question earlier. Typically you want maybe on average about 4 singing grounds per 100 acres of habitat. And roosting areas are a larger area. Generally the recipe calls for about 3 acres for a roost size field, and maybe one of those per 100 acres. These are some of the partners. We've had great cooperation up west with the DNR on this public lands, and not so much just because they haven't got there yet with the private landowners. But this slide shows you a great graphic about all the other species of non-game wildlife that responds to this young forest management. This was up at the Moosehorn National Wildlife Refuge up north. And on the left is a whole list of birds that increased as a result of active management for woodcock. And here's a photograph showing just some of those other species that also benefit. The next couple slides I've just thrown in for point of interest. This is a photograph up at the Warrior Mountain Wildlife Management Area in Allegheny County. This is a type of tree called musclewood, but it's more about the structure. This is a great woodcock habitat for Allegheny County. It might actually be a little bit old, but Mark mentioned Tim Flanagan. Tim took me to one of his secret spots, and this is where he annually finds lots of birds. This is another picture of a singing ground, early summer photograph. We have a great, we found a great value to old growth hawthorn up our way with an understory of goldenrod. These are great places in the late fall here when the migrants are coming through to find woodcock. But basically, the key is a moist soil. You have to have moist soils to have woodcock in any numbers. If you have a moist soil, forest or wetland, and you can build on that as the center, if you will, you have great potential to do good stuff. I'll show this to youth groups. We have a bird right here, a hen on the nest. Hard to see. A little bit closer up of that picture. This was last year in Allegheny County. I'm switching now to just something that's just started in the last 2 months. Is our effort to do a demonstration project up at the Mount Nebo area. Last year, the Wildlife Management Institute made available to each participating state $10,000 grant to do habitat improvement on a demonstration area. And up at Mount Nebo, I choose this because it has great potential. This is a wetland. All this light colored in through here is a forested wetland, about probably 1,000 acres or so in the whole complex. And these little strips that you see, and I'm going to show you a photograph in a minute, these are areas that I work with the area manager on. There was a total of 8 blocks totaling 10 acres. And to my knowledge, this is the first time this type of work's been done in Maryland where we're actually going to regenerate alder. Mark told you about how effective that's been over Canaan Valley. We designed this up as a demonstration project. Each of those strips are on average about 1/2 acre in size. And what we're going to do is go in there and actually cut those off down to the ground. This is a picture I just took day before yesterday. The weather was brutal, but I had a free ride up that day and I took advantage of it. The photographs weren't the best, but this is the harvester. This was about 40-mile-an-hour winds day before yesterday and about 15 degrees. It's perfect conditions to do what we're doing. When you're working about a wetland, there's all types of permits. I'm not going to go into the bureaucracy, but when you have rock-solid ground, that log splitter can do his job, and you don't have to worry about any kind of wetland problems. Okay? The guys are really go-getters. It's the first time the gentleman that I have on contract won the Maryland 2008 Logger of the Year Award. They're great conservationists, although they're loggers. They got the message. I said, hey, look, this is a public property. We're under intense scrutiny here. We need to do this perfectly. And so far, they've been great cooperators. And it's going to be money well spent because we're going to showcase this. And hopefully a lot of you folks in years to come will come up and see what we did up there. And it's really going to result in a good improvement. But in the foreground here, this was 6 to 10 foot high alder, and they went in actually, if you will, with weed whackers with the big metal blades. They went through there and they cut all that alder down first, and then he's going to walk back across it with that track machine to compact that down. Mark's approach with that machine is great. We didn't have the luxury at this site to do that, so we're taking a different approach. The result will be the same. But I wanted him to get all that debris as close to the forest floor as possible so that it'll rot up quickly. All right? So that's the plan. This is just a couple other views. Again, day before yesterday, not the best day for photographs, but they're doing a good job. And this is the real high water table area of the wetland in the background. And this is all going to be alder and coming upstream. Those blocks were laid out, if you will, from the wetland upslope. They were about 100 to 150 feet wide, and they go upslope maybe 300 to 400 feet each, something like that. And the reason we designed it that way is the water table is going to go from real wet upslope to real dry, but somewhere in that gradient, woodcock is going to find what they're looking for. All right? Quick photograph of our other demonstration area, Green Ridge State Forest at the Kirk Orchard site. Mark Beals is the new forest manager there. He's already been on the job about 2 years. He really has a love for wildlife habitat work. We're fortunate to have him there doing that. Through collaboration with Mark, we have now identified a 500-acre tract of public land. It's the largest tract of land in the state of Maryland being managed for early successional habitat. is part of the state forest management plan. And you folks, Wayne, I think you were talking about national forests early on. This is a big deal to get a piece of public land identified in the long-term resource management plan to be managed specifically for young forest early successional habitat. And I give a lot of credit to Mark for that effort. Okay, thank you very much. As Mark mentioned, I'm available. Make sure you capture the website. It's on the documents I headed out. You can call me. Again, I don't come out one-on-one and write management prescriptions, but I will help facilitate and direct you, and can't thank you enough for your interest in what we're trying to do here. Thank you.